resulting from his past deed, everywhere and at all time. Therefore, my dear mother, neither you nor I am to be blamed for this incident.
So, Chitraketu basically, so this is the mood of sincere acceptance, right? So he has accepted the curse, and he's also explaining why he has accepted the curse. And he's not superficially just saying he accepted it, and internally he's not convinced about it. So the point that he's making is that everyone enjoys or suffers because of their own karma. And Prabhupada quotes verse from Bhagavad Gita, Prakriti kriyamanani gunakarmani sarvasha ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate. Right. So, so essentially, what is happening is because of the influence of the modes. Now, it's not that he is saying that Mother Parvati is cursing because she is under the influence of the modes, right? This is all directed at him himself. Now, really speaking, Chitraketu is not in this category, right? It says that once one becomes a devotee of the Lord, then the cycle of karma stops acting on the person. But again, in the mood of a genuine devotee, Chitraketu does not consider himself to be a devotee, right? So he's considering himself to be fallen, and with humility he is saying that whatever I said to apparently insult Lord Shiva and the curse that I have received as a result of it, I am responsible for it, but nobody else. Right? When somebody says that it's the result of my past karma, it does not mean that the person is absolving himself, saying that what to do is just the cycle of karma, but he is saying that my past karma, that I did this because in the past I may have acted in a certain way that it is reacting upon me at this time. Okay, next verse. Saran Prabhu, I think you're on mute.
Sorry, I'm reading with you on mute. Yeah, text 19. Naivatma cha paraschapi kartashyat sukha dukha yo kartaram manyate trajan atmanam param evacha. Translation. In this material world, neither the living entity himself nor others, friends and enemies, are the cause of material happiness and distress. But because of gross ignorance, the living entity thinks that he and others are the cause.
So these verses are almost picked right out of third chapter of Bhagavad Gita, right? Where Krishna talks about the cycle of karma. Later on in the 14th chapter, he talks about the modes of material nature. So they're almost been picked out of it. Prabhupada writes in the purport that the word agya is very significant. In the material world, all the living entities are agya or ignorant to different degrees. And then he says that one should therefore come to the stage of goodness through character and behavior, and then gradually come to the transcendental platform or adhoksaja platform. Everything is done under the superintendence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam, the Avanti Brahman makes this point when he is meditating upon the misfortune that has fallen on him. he says that so because of him losing his wealth, the people are making fun of him, insulting him. So he says, these people are not the cause of my happiness and distress. Neither are the demigods, my own body, the planets, my past work or time. Rather, it is the mind alone that causes happiness and distress and perpetuates the rotation of material life. So, establishing one cause does not negate the other cause. Right? In the previous verse, the cause was identified as karma. Here, the cause is identified as agya or ignorance. Now, it's not that this nullifies the previous, but there is different levels of causality. That the agya is a deeper level of cause. Because of agya, a person performs good and bad actions. Because of the good and bad action, the person suffers the good and bad results. And Prabhupada makes this point that the opposite of agya is understanding the relationship with the Lord, or Gyan, in this case, Samantya, which will basically then break this cycle. Okay, next verse.
Text 20. Guna prevasta etasmin kat sapakhanam punargraha kaha sargo naraskaha korva kim sukam dukham eva va. Translation. This material world resembles the wave of a constantly flowing river. Therefore, what is a curse and what is a favor? What are the heavenly planets and what are the hellish planets? What is actually happiness and what is actually distress? Because
the waves flow constantly, none of them has an eternal effect. So this verse builds upon the or rather it completes the thought in the last process where there was a talk of happiness and distress in the material world. What this verse says is that everything in the material world is actually distress. So even the happiness that is experienced in the material world is actually distress. And Prabhupada quotes Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur when he gives an analogy that if a person is thrown into a mine of salt, then he only tastes salt wherever he goes. Similarly, the material world is full of miseries. The so-called temporary happiness of the material world is also misery, but in ignorance, we cannot understand it. That is the actual possession. So it's completing the thought that was built in the last two verses, right? The verse 18 talked about how one's good and bad actions in the previous life cause good and bad reaction in this life. The verse after that talked about the fact that both good and bad actions have the same source, again, which is ignorance. And Prabhupada expands on that, saying specifically ignorance about one's relationship with the Lord. This verse completes the thought saying that because of agya, because both happiness and distress have the same source, their result is also the same. So temporarily happiness might look as desirable and distress may look as undesirable, but ultimately, since they're both coming from ignorance, they actually result in suffering. And again, these are points that have been made with fair amount of details in the Gita. Okay, Prabhu, next verse.
Text 21. Ekaha sajati bhutani bhagavan atma mayaya esam bandham cha moksham cha sukham dukham cha nishkalaha. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is one, unaffected by the conditions of material world. He creates all the conditioned souls by his own personal potency. Because of being contaminated by the material energy, the living entity is put into ignorance and thus into different conditions of bondage. Sometimes, by knowledge, the living entity is given liberation. In Sattva Guna and Rajaguna, he is subjected to happiness and distress.
So the previous three verses talks about the suffering of the jiva in the material world in all conditions, right? Whether it is happiness or distress. This verse talks about uh, who is the who creates this system of suffering for the jiva, and Chitraketu is saying that it is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Prabhupada says that the question may be raised why the living entities are situated in different conditions and who arranged this. The answer is it has been done by the Supreme Personality of Godhead without anybody's help. Parasya Shakti Vividva Shriyate. So by his external energy, he creates the material world and varieties of happiness and distress, Sattva, Rajo, and Tamo Guna. When in Sattva Guna, there is happiness, Rajoguna, there is distress, and Tamoguna, there is no sense of what is right and what is wrong. Right? So, so there are two ways to understand this verse. Superficially, it may appear that Chitraketu is assigning blame to the Lord. That who makes the material world a place of suffering? The Supreme Lord. Right? And so essentially, it's the Supreme Lord who's responsible for the suffering. But actually, what he is trying to do, which is what is the mood of devotees, he is trying to see the hand of the Supreme Lord in all situations. Because one in knowledge knows that the Supreme Lord does not actually put anybody into happiness and distress. He only creates opportunities that a jiva can use to either enjoy, suffer, or to take liberation. So that is the difference between the perspective of a devotee and a non-devotee. When a non-devotee will reach this verse, he will say that the Supreme Lord is not acting in a fair way. Like sometimes they say, why doesn't the Lord just take away all the distress? Why does he create all this distress? He's responsible. If he's all powerful, he should be able to all powerful and all good. Then he should be able to make sure that everybody is enjoying. And that's the mood of using the personality of Godhead as an order taker. And this is what I want you to do. If you don't do what I want you to do, there is some defect in you. But Chitraketu obviously does not have that mood, right? What he is doing is that firstly, he's taking accountability of the situation himself. That I'm cursed because of my own karma. Then he's expanding that, saying that before I was cursed, I was happy. But that happiness or distress, they are both the same in the material world. So whether I'm cursed or not, the fact that I'm in this material world is a cause of suffering. now he is using that to connect himself with the Supreme. Right? It's like the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita is known as Arjun Vishad Yoga. And the lamentation of Arjun, but yoga that connects him to the Supreme Lord. Now, interestingly, he's making these statements to Parvati Devi, who is the personification of Lord's Maya Shakti. Yeah, because he says over here, being contaminated by the material energy, the living entity is put into ignorance. So who does this? It is the Lord's external energy. Right? So he's making these statements to Parvati Devi, describing her own position, also glorifying her, that you are exalted because the Supreme Lord gives you this um, um, difficult service to do on his behalf. Okay, next verse.
Text 22. Natasyo kajit daitai pratipo najanti bandhu na paro na cha swa samasya sarvastra niranjanasya sukhe na raghu kute evaro saha. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is equally disposed toward all living entities. Therefore, no one is very dear to him, and no one is a great enemy for him. No one is his friend, and no one is his relative. Being unattached to the material world, he has no affection for so-called happiness and hatred for so-called distress. The two terms, happiness and distress, are relative. Since the Lord is always happy, for him there is no question of distress.
So in the previous verse, Chitraketu had indicated that the Lord is responsible for all the distress that is created in the material world. And now he is saying that it is not because the Lord is any dvesh. He does not hate the jivas, and out of that hatred, he binds them. It's not that there are some jivas that he is partial towards and liberates them. Right? So he emphasizes over here the Lord is impartial because partiality is the result of Maya. Partiality is the result of illusion. And because the Lord is Niranjanasya. So Niranjasya means beyond Maya. So he has no attachment to material happiness. Then what to speak of hatred for opposing material happiness? Now, Chitraketu is speaking about the philosophy of material existence to two personalities who are factually actuating it. So Parvati Devi is the illusory energy of the Lord, and Lord Shiva is actually responsible for the material creation. Right? So even though we say Brahma is responsible for Visarga, but in the Sarga, in the primary creation, we know that the glance of Mahavishnu is actually Lord Shiva. When Mahavishnu glances at Prakriti, then it is said that because Lord Vishnu is in the mode of pure goodness, he never comes in personal contact with Maya. But through Lord Shiva, he comes in contact. That's why that Brahma Samhita, that verse is the Shiram Yathadadi Vikar Vishesh Yoga. That milk, when it comes in contact with acids, become yogurt. So Lord Vishnu is the milk, but when his expansion comes in contact with Maya, then that is Lord Shiva. So these are the two people who are actually the mother and the father of the material world. Parvati Devi is the one that is keeping the jivas under illusion so as to actuate their fulfillment of the material desires. Lord Shiva is the creator and the destroyer. So clearly, Chitraketu is not speaking for the benefit of Lord Shiva and Parvati, because that would be and further insulting them. Right? So there are two people who know who are actually doing this, and he's trying to explain what they do. So he's essentially saying this to make the point that Mother Parvati has not done anything wrong, that she is not at fault for cursing him, because his own actions are responsible for it. And somebody might say that maybe the Supreme Lord is at fault. So he's saying no, even the Supreme Lord is not at fault. He is completely neutral. And somebody might say maybe Lord Shiva is at fault. And he says no, neither Lord Shiva, nor the Devas, nor Parvati Devi, nor the Supreme Lord is at fault. So who is at fault? He says only I am the cause of good and bad happenings. But as a devotee, he sees the hand of Lord and he considers it to be auspicious. So he's assuring Mother Parvati that not only are you not to blame, you are simply acting out the will of the Lord, and therefore actually you should be glorified. Right? So this is the genuine magnanimity of Chitraketu. Right? It's not false humility, but he is genuinely experiencing the magnanimity of Parvati Devi, and he's going through this philosophical process to just like a child shares with the parents, that if the parents chastise them, the child shares with the parent that I was naughty, I did this, so you got angry at me, but I know you got angry at me so that I don't do this mistake again, so that I get to become a better person there. And then the parents are satisfied by the child's intelligence, they're happy by the disposition of the child. That's exactly what Chitraketu is doing. He's not assuming the position of superiority to tell Parvati Devi, let me tell you what your role is or what is Lord Shiva's role. But he's explaining this to them that they already know, in order to ensure that he conveys that I clearly understand that the only person at fault over here is me, myself. Okay, next verse.
Text 23. Tatapi takchakti visagra esam sukhaya dukhaya hitaya bandaya mokshaya chat mrityu janmano sariram samhritaye vikalpate. Translation. Although the Supreme Lord is unattached to our happiness and distress according to karma, and although no one is his enemy or favorite, he creates pious and impious activities through the agency of his material potency. Thus, for the continuation of materialistic ways of life, he creates happiness and distress, good fortune and bad, bondage and liberation, birth and death.
So same point, this is a repetition for emphasis. The Lord is neutral, but he creates the system which the jiva leverages to experience happiness and distress. Okay, next verse.
Text 24. Ata prasadayeta natvam sapa mokshaya bhammini yanmanyase hi asudhukam mama tat kvam yatam sati. Translation. O mother, you are now unnecessarily angry, but since all my happiness and distress are destined by my past activities, I do not plead to be excused or relieved from your curse. Although what I have said is not wrong, please let whatever you think is wrong to be pardoned.
So, so it's important to, when there are philosophical discussions that are happening, so it is important to also speak clearly. because it's the nature of philosophy to be to have more than one interpretation. So uh, the previous verses can also be read to interpret that Chitraketu is asking to be exonerated from the curse. So here he starts up by saying Atah prasadena tvam shapamokshya. So shapamokshya means to be relieved from your curse. So he says, don't get me wrong. I'm not sitting here exonerating you, glorifying you, taking responsibility with the hope that you may think that, okay, since this person now understands his mistake and he understands my exalted position, so let me take back the curse. Generally, we see that's the typical interaction, that when somebody is cursed, then after being cursed, they beg for forgiveness. And then the cursed person who is cursed, they don't really take the curse back, but they'll modify it, saying that, okay, this curse will, after so much time, it'll get over. Or like Narmuni, he cursed the sons of Kuber, saying that Krishna will come and liberate you, right? So Chitraketu, being a pure devotee, he is actually really indifferent to material happiness or distress, right? And he wants to make sure that he does not give this impression by his talking of the philosophical aspects that he is looking to be exonerated. So he speaks clearly over here that natvam shapa moksha, that please do not take back your your curse. Then he addresses Parvati Devi first as Bhamini. So when he says Bhamini, then he is saying that so Bhamini means, oh, angry one, right? So he is acknowledging the anger of Mother Parvati. Now he is not belittling the anger of Mother Parvati, right? So he's not saying that uh, uh, you are unnecessarily, your anger is not justified. Now, Srila Prabhupada contextually translates Bhamini to be that you are unnecessarily angry. Vishwanath Chakravarti translates it to O angry one. Okay. Now, when Prabhupada translates it to you're unnecessarily angry, it is not to indicate that Chitraketu is belittling Mother Parvati. There's no need for you to be angry. The point that Prabhupada contextually wants us to, from Chitraketu's perspective, is that um, there is no uh, need for you to continue to be angry with me. Right? So let your anger be dissipated. Then manyase haya sadhuktam, that uh, this comes in the third line, that what you consider to be unkind words, right? So Prabhupada, he extracts the hidden meaning and says that although what I have said is not wrong. So again, this is not Chitraketu saying that what I have said is right and you are unnecessarily angry at me, because that would be against the mood of all the verses that he has spoken previously, right? Essentially, it is displaying his mood of detachment, right? So, if he actually had resentment towards Mother Parvati, then he would not have spoken the previous set of verses in which he exonerates her of any wrongdoing and holds himself accountable. Right? So he's saying that no, you're not at fault, and then saying, I did not make any mistake, you are at you are at fault, right? So he is actually accepting the curse, and at the same time he is begging for her forgiveness. So what exactly is he? He says that Mama Tat Kshamatyam Sati. So second time, the first time he had addressed her as Bhamani. Bhamani means "O angry one," and Sati means "O chaste one," "O pure woman." So he's saying that I unnecessarily uh, uh, considered Lord Shiva embracing you as a reproachable action. But actually, you are sati. You are actually chaste. The exalted Lord Shiva is beyond reproach. Right? So there was no fault in Lord Shiva embracing you. Right? So the fault is all with me. Right? So what is the point that he's making here? He is saying that knowingly or unknowingly, I have angered you. That is my fault. Please forgive me. I fully accept your curse. The curse that I have received is because of my past deeds, because of the influence of which I have offended you. And for this, I deserve to be punished. Right? He said that let whatever you think is wrong be pardoned. Right? He said kshamatya. Right? Now again, the kshamatya is not saying that please take back the curse, but it is saying that please give up your anger towards me. So it's a beautiful lesson over here of how exalted Vaishnavas act. So in an interaction between advanced devotees, the lesson is that it does not matter whether one is in the right or the wrong. What matters is that has one inflicted pain on the other. So the whole concept of Satyam Bruham, what is it? What is the Satyam Bruham Priyam? Apriyam Satyam Na Bruyam. That speak the truth only if you can speak it in a palatable way. Apriyam Satyam Na Bruyam. If you cannot speak the truth in a palatable way, Na Bruyam. Better to not speak it. So Chitraketu is saying that trying to unravel this whole thing that I am wrong, I am right, you are wrong, you are right, all this is not even relevant. The matter of fact is that I have somehow offended you. And for that, I beg your forgiveness. So that's the mood of devotees, right? That foremost in their mind is the welfare of the other devotee, right? So, for example, when Akrur took Krishna away from Vrindavan, he was doing his duty in more than one ways. He was ordered by Kamsa to do it, and being a minister of Kamsa, he was bound by the order of Kamsa, and it was also the desire of Krishna. So everybody knew, including the residents of Vrindavan, that Akrur could not have taken Krishna away from Vrindavan if Krishna had not desired. But what was the fault of Akrur? That when the gopis were crying at the separation of Krishna, he did not stop to pacify them. In his mind, he was thinking that I'm not in the wrong. I'm simply doing my duty, which was the right thought. But he did not stop to consider that his action was causing pain in the heart of devotees. And it is Acharya said that for this insensitivity, he himself had to face infamy and separation from Krishna during the pastime of the Shamantaka Jew, appears in the 10th canto, chapters 54-55, where Akrura had actually was forced to leave Dwarka and stay separate from Krishna, right? So that was the reaction. Now the gopis, they were upset at Akrura, but they didn't curse him. They were upset at him. They said, "Your name should not be Akrura, should be Krur, etc., etc." But his offense was that he saw Vaishnava suffering and he did not stop to appease them. But Krishna did. Krishna could have also said that my duty, this, that, etc., right? But he did. He got off the chariot, he took the gopis to a solitary place, and by words and promises, he consoled them. Now, in another pastime, we see that once Rupa Goswami unintentionally he offended a Brahmin. So he was chanting, and while he was chanting, he was thinking of a pastime, and he started laughing. And there was an old Brahmin who was walking who was deformed body, and he thought Rupa Goswami was laughing at him, and he felt hurt at him, right? And when Sanatan Goswami told Rupa Goswami, "This is the cause of your losing taste," Rupa Goswami immediately went and apologized. Like, he didn't say to the Brahmin that you're unnecessarily oversensitive, what's the problem, and don't think everything is about you, etc. Which all of that would have been true. But what is true and what is not true becomes irrelevant. The reality is, if one offends in Vaishnava, one causes pain in the Vaishnava, one must look for ways to address the pain. So Prabhupada says that being fully aware of how the result of one's karma accrue by the laws of nature, Chitraketu did not want to be released from Parvati's curse. Nonetheless, he wanted to satisfy her, because although his verdict was natural, she was displeased with him. As a matter of course, Maharaj Chitraketu begged pardon from Parvati. So in the Bhagavatam, we see that when Parikshit Maharaj was cursed by Shringi, we see that he did not go and ask for forgiveness either from Shaumik Rishi, who had offended, or from Shringi. Right? So when Gaurmukha, the devotee or the person that Shaumik Rishi sent, and he delivered the message to Parikshit Maharaj understood that if he went and begged forgiveness from Shaumik Rishi, he would simply embarrass him. Because the way that Gaurmukha spoke, it conveyed an enormous amount of regret from Shaumik Rishi. That Shaumik Rishi already understood that Parikshit Maharaj did not deserve to be cursed. He understood that his son was immature and had done a silly thing. So, because Shringi was a child, Shaumik Rishi was holding himself responsible for the actions of the incident. So if Parikshit Maharaj had gone to Shaumik Rishi and fallen at his feet and begged for forgiveness, then he would have simply put Shaumik Rishi in an uncomfortable position. So out of consideration for Shaumik Rishi, Maharaj Parikshit did not approach him, but rather he glorified him by accepting his instructions. So Shaumik Rishi had said that, take the necessary steps to prepare for your imminent demise in 7 days. And Parikshit Maharaj said that I'm holding these instructions to my head, and that's what I will do. So the mood of the Vaishnavas is that the primary consideration is to avoid pain and hurt to others. In some situation, it may be by directly going and asking for forgiveness, like Rupa Goswami did it to the Brahman. In another situation, it may be by following the instructions of the person. In another situation, it may be by offering obeisance from a distance. Right? So the methodology might differ, but the intention is always the same. Okay, next verse.
Text 25. Shishuka uvacha iti prashadeya girisho chitraketu arindhama jagamha swavimaneha prasyadho samastothayo. Translation. Shishuka Dev Goswami continued, O King Parikshit, subduer of the enemy. After Chitraketu satisfied Lord Shiva and his wife Parvati, he debowed his airplane and left as a look-on. When Lord Shiva and Parvati saw Chitraketu, although in form of a curse, was unafraid, they smiled, being fully astonished by his behavior.
So this is a summary of Sukadeva Goswami summarizes the mood of Chitraketu. So he addresses Parikshit Maharaj as Aridama, subduer of enemy, because Parikshit Maharaj had been in a similar situation. So just like we were discussing, he was in a similar situation where he was cursed, and he took the curse with grace. He turned the curse as a springboard to make advancement in his spiritual life. So what was the enemy that Parikshit Maharaj subdued? The enemy of Agya, ignorance, the enemy of false ego. So he's saying you can understand this. You yourself are Arimdama. You yourself have been in this situation, and you know how it is to act in a proper way by subduing your own ego, pride, and accepting it as the desire of the Lord. So to summarize what Chitraketu spoke to Parvati Devi, he started off by saying that I accept your curse without reservations or ambiguity. Then in 3 verses, he describes the temporary nature of the material world to explain why he accepts the curse. That happiness and distress are caused by the jiva, or in this case, by himself. So he considers himself and only himself to be the cause of the past and present suffering. Now, this is from the perspective of karma. Right? By the law of karma, if one does good or bad activity, that's the result. Then he completely absolves Mother Parvati, Lord Shiva, and Supreme Lord, and says that I am the only one that is responsible. This is from the perspective of Gyan. Right? When he's talking about the fact that the jiva is so now he's not even talking about karma, right? He's talking about the embodied jiva creating situations of perceived happiness and distress, which are actually different flavors of distress, right? Then he accepts the fault of somehow displeasing Mother Parvati, and then says that I am rightly cursed. So this is from the perspective of bhakti, where he says that you're a Vaishnavi, a devotee. I have somehow displeased you, so please forgive me. Right? Forget about right, wrong, me right, you wrong, vice versa. that I have no right to displease another devotee. Right? Then finally, he says that all this must be orchestrated by the Supreme Lord who is uh, neutral, and because the Supreme Lord is all good, it has to be all good, right? So this is from the perspective of Shuddha Bhakti, where one takes everything, good and bad, as good when one connects it to the hand of the Lord, right? So we see he makes this progression from karma gyan to bhakti to, to Shuddha Bhakti, and then in all stages, whether it is karma or gyan or bhakti or Shuddha Bhakti, his mood is the same, that he is begging for forgiveness, he is accepting the curse without any resentment and and anger. So it is said when Lord Shiva and Parvati saw that Chitraketu, although informed of the curse, was unafraid, they smiled, being fully astonished by his behavior. Right? So two moods are talked over here. Why did they smile and why were they astonished? Right? They smiled because they understood that the curse on Chitraketu is not going to be a cause of his distress. It is actually going to be, it is actually for just like for a devotee, for a non-devotee, good or bad is bad. For a devotee, good or bad is good. Right? So understanding Chitraketu's mood of a devotee, they smiled, understanding that everything is good. And they were astonished because one is always astonished by the behavior of exalted Vaishnavas. Right? So that point is made that when when Vaishnavas are, when they are beaten, when they are insulted, they don't show any reactions. Right? They stay, they remain with equanimity, and that behavior astonishes many people. Now, Parvati Devi and Lord Shiva themselves are exalted, Vaishnavas. So they're able to see and appreciate the behavior of another exalted Vaishnava, and they're astonished by that behavior. Okay, next verse.
Text 26. Tatastu Bhagavan Rudro Rudhanim idam abravit Dirvasi Daitya Siddhanam Prasadhanam Cha Srivatam. Translation. Therefore, in the presence of great sage Narada, the demon, the inhabitant of Siddhaloka, and his personal associate, Lord Shiva, who is most powerful, he spoke to his wife, Parvati, while they all listened.
So from 26 to 38 is the Lord Shiva speaking to Mother Parvati. And then Sukdev Goswami stresses that Lord Shiva speaks in the presence of all those assembled. So the point that he's making is that Lord Shiva is going to impart important lessons from this incident that will benefit everyone. Also, Lord Shiva as a devotee will uh, uh, simply the mood of a devotee is to appreciate another devotee. So we will see that also play out. Okay, so we have time, we'll do a few more verses. Verse 27.
Text 27. Sri Ruda Uvacha Drishtavit Asi Suruni Hare Ubhatu Karmaha Mahatmyam Dhritya Bhrityatnam Nirsheshanam Mahatmanam. Translation. Lord Shiva said, my dear beautiful Parvati, have you seen the greatness of the Vaishnava? Being servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, they are great soul and are not interested in any kind of material happiness.
So Srila Prabhupada and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur state that Lord Shiva speaks to his wife in humor, but also uses humor to gently point out her fault in cursing Chitraketu. Right. So he starts off by saying Sushroni. So Sushroni means, oh beautiful Parvati. And Chakravarti's part says that Lord Shiva is suggesting to Parvati Devi, you excel in beauty, but not in bhakti, jnana, and vairagya. In this way, he jokes suggestively. So, as an exalted devotee, Lord Shiva's attention immediately goes to the Supreme Lord. Right? So, in any pastime, any incident that happens, the mood, the attention of the devotee immediately goes to the Lord. The one who is not a devotee, the attention goes to so many other places. But Lord Shiva's attention immediately goes to the Lord, right? He says that Adbhut Karmana, that I have witnessed the astonishing act of the Lord as of now. Right. So what is the astonishing act? So when he's talking about the Lord, he's talking about, so he's saying, so he says, Dashtvasi Ashi Sushroni Hare Adbhut Karmana. So Hare Adbhut Karmana. So what is the astonishing action of the Lord? That by the will of the Lord, you became offended and cursed. By the will of the Lord, Chitraketu became indifferent to the material duality. And by the will of the Lord, the greatness of his devotee who remained steadfast in all adversity is going to be broadcast. Right? So, so all this is the greatness of the Lord. Then Lord Shiva says there is one more greatness of the Lord, which is even more astonishing, and that is reflected in his devotees. Right? So he refers to Chitraketu as Bhritya Bhrityana. So Bhritya Bhrityana means the servant of a servant. Now Lord Shiva is not saying it derogatively. There's this Chitraketu who is Dasamudas Anudas, right? So in a material sense, it would be like he's saying he's such a fallen person. But having already connected him to the Lord, when he says Bhritya Bhrityana, he's actually glorifying the the mood of Chitraketu. That the mood of a devotee is Tasvasm, that I am the servant of the servant, right? And Chakravarti Pad says that Bhritra Bhrityanam also, Lord Shiva is reflecting to the fact that he is the servant of Narad Muni, right? Because he perfected by getting the mercy of the servant of Narad Muni is a servant of the Lord. So by getting the mercy of the servant of the Lord, he got this perfection. Now, Parvati Devi may feel bad about cursing a devotee of the Lord and putting him in difficulty because she's also Vaishnavi. So Lord Shiva, he assures her. He says that the curse that you uttered in great anger did not give the slightest unhappiness to Chitraketu. Therefore, your curse is powerless, it is useless, like a serpent without fangs. Now, in a way, it might be Lord Shiva is belittling Parvati Devi, that you think you did a big thing, but actually it's useless. But from a devotee perspective, he's saying, don't feel bad that you have put Chitraketu in any trouble, because he's completely taken shelter of the Lord. Right? So it's like somebody accidentally hit somebody else, right? And the person is feeling bad. Oh, I hit him, I may have caused him pain. And then the other person says that I actually did not even feel that you hit me. Now, it does not take away the action of hitting, but it makes the other person feel better, that at least I did not cause the person pain. So that's how Lord Shiva is assuring Parvati Devi. Then finally, there is a sweet chastisement. He says that you should not treat the great devotees, Mahatmyan, having prema bhakti from this day on. So Chakravarti Pad says that this lesson is hinted by putting together the various messages in the verse. Prabhupada in the purport writes that, my dear Parvati, Lord Shiva says, my dear Parvati, you're very beautiful in your bodily features. Certainly you are glorious. But I do not think that you can compete with the beauty and the glory of the devotees who have become servants of the Supreme Lord. Of course, Lord Shiva smiled when he joked with his wife in this way, but others cannot speak like that. So, this is also why Lord Shiva was silent when Mother Parvati was chastising Chitraketu and finally cursed him. So Chitraketu could understand that Lord Shiva understood his intentions. Even though the presentation may have been not the best, but Lord Shiva understood his intentions and therefore did not himself curse him. So that is why Chitraketu does not even apologize to Lord Shiva. Yeah, because really speaking, the root of the offense was him criticizing to Lord Shiva. But we don't see Chitraketu apologizing to Lord Shiva. We also don't see Chitraketu taking shelter of Lord Shiva against the anger of Parvati Devi. So Lord Shiva stayed silent because he continued to understand the mood of Chitraketu. So when Chitraketu spoke about Lord Shiva the way, then Lord Shiva understood his mood. When Chitraketu was speaking to Parvati Devi, his only intention was to appease Parvati Devi, right? So Lord Shiva stayed neutral. He said there's a devotee who's trying to appease the hurt feelings of other devotees. Now, the great personalities who were assembled, they did not hold Chitraketu at fault, but they understood that Parvati Devi was hurt by the statements of Chitraketu. So they did not chastise Chitraketu for not apologizing to Lord Shiva. Because, factually speaking, the only fault of Chitraketu was that knowingly or unknowingly he had hurt Parvati Devi. Right? So, Lord Shiva understood that all this was happening by the will of the Supreme Lord and for the benefit of everyone. So Chitraketu benefited by the curse. That he quickly went back to Godhead. Parvati Devi benefited by cursing him because, as it was mentioned in 2 verses back, she was astonished by the behavior of Chitraketu, which means that she developed a greater appreciation for devotees. So anybody who appreciates the devotees becomes dearer to the Lord. So Parvati Devi benefited. Lord Shiva benefited by it because he witnessed the greatness of the Lord and his devotees. Those who were assembled over there, they benefited it because they saw how exalted personalities act in relationship to one another, even if the circumstances are adversarial. And the readers of the future will benefit from this by meditating on the lessons in this pastime. Right? From a material perspective, Chitraketu was humiliated, chastised, and cursed by Parvati Devi. But from a spiritual perspective, he is glorified by a person of the stature of Lord Shiva. Right. So when an action that happens that is zero sum, that there is benefit for somebody and loss for somebody, one can understand that it is because of the modes of material nature. When an action happens in which everyone benefits, then one can understand that it is by the will of the Lord. Okay, so we'll pause over here and continue our discussion next Monday. I may be a little bit over time, but if there's any discussions, we can quickly have a question or so.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. One quick comment and one question, Prabhuji. Uh, it is so heart-touching class, Prabhuji, honestly. This level of devotees' mood and all, we would never understand unless we hear from devotees like you. Because this churning, because otherwise externally if we see like he makes a mistake, Parvati Devi cursed out of anger, you know, uh, when we don't hear from devotees, we don't get much out of it. But this level of the devotees' mood and all, it is very heart touching, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for the class. And one question, Prabhuji, uh, is Parikshit Maharaj's case is a pure devotee of Krishna. That is the reason Samik Rishi, he already felt embarrassed for his son cursing Parikshit Maharaj, because the same act if somebody else does, that would be a huge crime. uh, and Parikshit Maharaj, he don't want to embarrass, Samik Rishi, knowing his mood, so he didn't went back. But what was his mood? Did he felt like, oh, this is Supreme Lord's will, this has happened, or he felt like, oh, I made a great mistake, or how does he? Because if some Vaishnava offending somebody else and not seeking forgiveness is not very natural. Uh, so how does he processed it whole thing?
Yeah. So it's a good question. I think the point you're making is that Parishit Maharaj offended Shamik Rishi, but we don't see him asking forgiveness from Shamik Rishi. Even when Gurmukh came, there's, at least in the Bhagavatam, it's not recorded saying that Parishit Maharaj said that please convey my obeisances or regrets to Shamik Rishi. So the point that is being made over here is that there are more than one way to seek forgiveness. Right? It can be done, as it said, anything that we do can be done by one mana, vacha, or kriya, by mind, by words, or by actions. Right? So one may verbally go and ask for forgiveness, which is a way to do. Parikshit Maharaj asked for forgiveness by following the instructions of Shamik Rishi. So Samik Rishi said through Guru Mukh that you have 7 days to live. Please prepare for your death. And Parikshit Maharaj said absolutely. Right? And in such a glorious way, he prepared for his death. And then Maryada, right? He maintained the dignity of Samik Rishi. That if he had gone and he had begged forgiveness, then what could have Shamik Rishi do? At one point, there is a son, and he cannot reverse the curse of a Brahman. He knows Parikshit Maharaj has been cursed wrongly. He has already chastised his son, but he can't reverse the curse. So he maintained the dignity of Shamik Rishi. So sometimes no actions speak louder than actions, also, right? And so the point that is being distilled over here is that when one offends a Vaishnava, one should always look for ways to address it. But there are more than one way to address it. In fact, the cheapest way to address is by words. That you offend a Vaishnava and said, "Oh Prabhu, I'm really sorry," and move on. The better way to address the Vaishnava is address the hurt in the Vaishnava is, as it is said. Uh, um, I don't remember which book it is said, but the best way it is said is by rendering service to the Vaishnava. That's the best way to address the heart.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll end over here. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anand Koti Vaishnavinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thai Gaur Premanand. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhuji.